Proving you're Ugandan can sometimes feel harder than being a Ugandan. Let's talk about this. Citizenship, especially Ugandan citizenship. Why has it become a very sensitive social and legal debate? Before we get into the debate, we need to understand, where did citizenship come from? Why citizenship? And how has citizenship been managed to date? For context, Uganda, as we all know, was once a British protectorate. This means that we were governed under the British laws. Then came a time when we needed our independence. Now, part of that independence conversation was how we're going to govern ourselves. And indeed, the British were so kind to us. They decided to take a group of people to Lancaster in London to discuss matters that related to our constitution. Well, that is still a topic for another day. Very debatable. But the most challenging thing at that time was that not so many people were invited to that room. What mattered the most was that conversations around governance, around merging Uganda Kingdom and the kingdoms that existed that time into a central government mattered the most. It's very interesting to know that first constitution of Uganda did not mention tribes or ethnicity. It just recognized Ugandans as those who were living in the country at that time. Fast forward comes the 1995 constitution. The framers of this constitution decided to have an actual deep dive into the question of citizenship for so many reasons we will not get into. But Articles 10 to 16 of the 1995 constitution framed a discussion around citizenship, how citizenship can be defined and how you can actually lose your citizenship. It further went on to have a whole schedule under Schedule 3 where indigenous tribes of Uganda were listed. At that time, there were 56 tribes. But you can imagine, given the history that we had, how many tribes were actually recognized as indigenous tribes of Uganda. Later on, a lot of debate came around the framing of the constitution, how ethnicity, tribal boundaries, and all issues around identity and belonging were framed in this constitution. Later on, this schedule was amended and we now have 65 indigenous tribes. You can imagine the kind of debates that were happening in parliament at that time. And that's why, to date, citizenship is such a social and legal sensitive issue. We now know that the idea of citizenship, right from 1962, when we got our independence as a nation, to date is not clear-cut. It is subject to a lot of debate. And the question still remains, is it just a matter of legality, or is there a need for consideration of social context? In Chapter 6 of my book, Identity Lost in History, Found in Purpose, I take a deep dive into this issue of citizenship. I have had my own personal debate around citizenship, internally but also externally, on how people perceive citizenship and also try to identify citizenship within me. In this chapter that I called A Nation of Many Faces, I had Dr. Daniel Rueza, a Don at Makerere University, a constitutional law expert, take a deep dive with me, and we debated this issue and discussed why citizenship in Uganda is not clear-cut. Dr. Rueza actually frames it this way. He says, on paper, citizenship is about documents and legal status. However, it is much more personal. It is connected to our sense of self, our place in the world, and our right to be recognized. It shapes our identity, sense of belonging, and power as we hold as a people. It determines who can claim state protection, whose voice is heard in its decisions, and whose story becomes part of the nation's shared memory. There is so much you can learn from this chapter. If you want to learn more about citizenship from my perspective and a lot of experts that have shared their opinion in my book, get a copy of this book on Amazon, on my website, or reach out to me in my inbox and you'll be part of this great story. Let me know your thoughts around the idea of citizenship or your experience around Ugandan citizenship. Perhaps your comment will just trigger part 2 in our next Legal Bite. See you then. Bye-bye.